Hello everyone, welcome to my Office Script and Power Automate demo. What will I be presenting today? I will tell you a little bit about myself. Then I'll mention our goal for today. We will be writing Office Script, and then finally I will be creating a Power Automate flow that uses that Office Script. And finally we'll end up with a Q&A if there's time left. So who am I? My name is Jan Karel Pietersen, and I've been using spreadsheets since 1987. Helping other people, I received my first Microsoft MVP award way back in 2002, so I'm at 20 awards right now. I'm a self-employed Excel consultant, so you can hire me for your Excel work, and you can find me at jkp-ads.com. Right, so now it's time to present what our goal for today's meeting is. I've prepared a session where we first would write an Office script that will generate a table of contents in a worksheet. And then we'll create a Power Automate flow to apply that script to all Excel files in a folder. To clarify, let me show an example of a workbook. Here's an Excel Online workbook that has the table of content that I want to create. And that table of content consists of a heading, and then we have a short table for all of the worksheets in the workbook. And secondly, we will have another heading that has the charts and a table that contains a short table with all of the charts in the workbook. Each table will contain both the names of the items and a direct link to those items. So if I click on the widgets links, that should take me to the widgets sheet like this. And if I click on the link next to chart 1 on the game sheet, that should take me to the area where chart 1 is located. This is chart 1. So that about the table of content. And we will be writing that using Office Script. The second task that I thought of is that we will be creating a Power Automate flow, and this is showing the flow already. That flow is going to be manually triggered, so I'm going to start the flow by the click of a button. The flow will then list all existing files in a certain OneDrive folder. That is this folder over here, containing 2 files currently. And for each of those files, it will filter the files so that it only works on XLS files, and then it will run that table of content script on each of those files. So for example, in my OneDrive folder, there's a file called sumcharts2, which does not yet contain that table of content sheet, as you can see below here. So now it's time to start writing our Office script. And for that goal, I tend to use the script recorder because that gives you a good start on your script. So let's summarize the steps that we need. So what I intend to do is delete this worksheet, then recreate what's here, and all of that while the script recorder is running. So let's start the script recorder. And the script recorder is found on the Automate tab. And if we click the button Record Actions, then the script recorder starts immediately. So bear in mind that the script recorder is running all the time while we're doing stuff. So it's going to record all our actions. So as you can see, it already mentions that it's recording. So let's get rid of this worksheet. Delete. Okay. And as you can see, it mentions delete worksheet. Next step is to add a new worksheet. Rename it to TOC, and then starting from cell B2, we're going to list all worksheets, and that cell B2 we want formatted as heading 1. Heading 1 is in the style section, heading 1. And then 2 rows down, I want to insert a table table. Okay, and that table contains the heading worksheet name and link. And then once I've added all my worksheets, let's add one, widgets, and I want to use the hyperlink function. For a hyperlink to work, we started with the pound sign, with cell B5, and we append that with the exclamation mark and A1. And then we wanted to display the text link. Right, and then we want to add the charts. Again, format that is a heading, style, heading 1, and add another table here. Okay, which has sheet name, chart name, and link. Like that. So let's stop the recorder, see what it has recorded. Stop. And let's make it wider again, and let's start editing the script. So as you can see, the script recorder adds a comment for every action and then the line that the action actually performs. So my first statement is going to cause errors when we try to delete a worksheet that is not there. So let's demonstrate. If I delete this worksheet manually and then run my script, as you can see, it gives me an error message that it cannot read the properties of undefined, reading delete on row 4. And that is because TOC was assigned nothing because there is no such worksheet. So we need some special code for that to cater for the absence of worksheet TOC. After some Googling, I discovered that to actually detect whether a worksheet is present, you can use code like this. So a structure like this allows you to test whether a worksheet exists, and it simply consists of an if statement that says, if this is true, then the worksheet exists. And so if it exists, I simply delete it. So that's sorted. We deleted the TOC sheet if it's there, and then we add a fresh TOC sheet using this line, and then we start entering the data that is here. So you can see that here we set the value of cell B2 to worksheets, then we change the style using the heading 1 style, and finally we add a new table in cell B4 that contains a heading of worksheet name and link and contains the value widgets in cell B5 and a formula, which is written here, the one that I typed with lots of errors just now. So that all works. The next step the recorded macro does is it fills cell B7 with charts and it adds the table for the charts. So given that this structure over here looks a lot like this structure over here, let's try and create a function that actually takes those actions for us. I pre-did that already, so I'm just going to paste that in. Just a second. So here's that function. It's named add TOC table. It returns the table that it just created, and it takes a couple of arguments. One, it takes the caption. That's the text that we want here. And then it takes the workbook in question, which we always need, and finally it takes the location, that's the starting point of where I want the heading to appear, and then where I want the table to appear is 2 cells below that. So let's use that add TOC table function in our existing script. I'm going to get rid of everything that I have since the let TOC1 equals add worksheet until here. Delete that. And now I need a separate variable that I'm going to pass to the function that tells us where the TOC entry should start. So the first step I need to make that work is I need to remember where on the worksheet we are. So I'm going to set a variable that remembers we're starting on cell B2. And the next step is that we are adding the table. So let's do that now. I'm going to copy existing code from another screen because I'm a lazy programmer, of course. So this adds the worksheets heading here, and it adds the table, and it stores the result as a variable into new table. Our next step is to start adding all of the worksheets to that table. So how do we do that? So basically you saw that we use the set values property to set the value of the worksheet name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable that's going to remember all worksheets in the workbook. So let's copy that. And I'm going to do that prior to adding the new TOC sheet so that the list of worksheets I have does not contain the TOC sheet. So this is a simple command to get all of the worksheets in the workbook, and I'm going to write that into all sheets. So now I want to traverse to the all sheets variable and pick up their names and write them into the cell starting from cell B5 downwards this way. So imagine these are not there. So the first thing I need is a for next loop. So how do I write a for next loop in JavaScript? So I'm using Ecosia here, JavaScript for loop. I'm going to look for. And the thing to look for is the W3 Schools website because that contains most of the relevant information that we need. And in this case, I'm interested in just this bit. So let me just copy this and go back to our script page and just paste it in here. Paste. So basically, we have a list of worksheets called all sheets, and let's just replace cars with all sheets. This is all that it takes to run through all the worksheets. Now we're not going to write HTML to a page. We're actually going to write information to a cell. So which cell is that? That's actually that report cell, but we need to move down a couple of cells. So after we've added the new table, we need the cursor to move down 3 cells. And we do that using the getOffsetRange function. What I need to do now is enter the names of the worksheets into that cell. And I'm going to use copy paste again. I'm going to use that loop counter to count how many cells I need to step down, and I'm going to add one because I'm starting at the heading row of the table. And I'm going to use the set value command to get the name of the current worksheet in the loop, which is using this syntax with the square brackets and the I in between. So let's see if this bit of the code works. So here you see the result of running our script as far as it is now. And as you can see, we're still missing the links column, and we also don't have the heading that is supposed to go above the table. So let's add the heading of the table and then add the links to the table. And that is done using 2 short commands. The first one's going to add the headings, And let's do that just immediately below where we set the offset range here. Paste. And as you can see, we set those headings in one go by passing an array of 2 values and 1 row. And then the next one I'm going to do after the loop, and I'm going to write the formula into the top left cell of the table in the second column here, so cell C5. Let me copy the code that I prepared for that. I'm going to copy that after the loop as I promised. And as you can see, I'm using report cell get offset range 1, 1. So I'm moving 1 cell down and 1 to the right. So this is where I'm going to write the formula. And that formula I recorded previously. So let's see if this script works properly now. We should have a named column here after running the script, and we should have 2 links here. Let's run the script. Well, that looks promising. By the way, running a script can take a considerable amount of time, and it can vary a lot also. Let's see if my table of content actually works. So if I click on the games link, it should take me to games. Yay, that works. And if I click on the widget link, it should take me to widgets, and that works as well. Good. Our next task is to move that report cell reference down so that it now starts pointing to 2 cells beneath our table. I'm not going to make that up as I speak. I'm going to copy that from existing code. And it is as easy as using this syntax. So my current report cell location is the top left cell of my table. So I'm going to use that get offset range again, and I'm going to use the number of rows the table contains and add 2 to it. So if my table contains 2 rows, and if I add 2 to that, I'm going to go from here to 1, 2, 3, plus 1 is 4. So that's going to place my cursor right here. And then my next task is to add a new table to take all of the chart sheets. So I'm going to add a chart header and a new table, move my cursor down so it is inside the table, and add the names of the columns of the table. So I'm going to copy code again, and I'm going to paste that code here. So this adds the new table, and I'm reusing that same variable name again. It adds the charts heading and the charts table, and here we set the charts table, set the columns that we need, a worksheet name, that's the name of the chart, location of the chart, and a link to the chart. And then the next task is to find all the charts on all the worksheets. So how do you do that? The simple idea is that we run through all the worksheets and then through all the charts on every worksheet. So let's go back here. There's already some code here that runs through all the worksheets. So I'm going to simply copy that and paste it here and get rid of the lines that are in between, like this. Not sure why there's 2 semicolons there, so let's get rid of them. So that's running through all the sheets. Now, to get all of the charts from one worksheet is fairly easy. It's just a one-line statement, and I'm going to paste that here. And that's just taking the current worksheet, which is all sheets square bracket I square bracket close, and use the get charts command. So that gives me all the charts. And now it's a matter of simply traversing through all the charts. So I'm going to reuse this again, closing curly braces, and instead of all sheets, I need all charts. And I'm going to use a different loop counter just to make it easier for everything to work. So I'm going to use J here, J, J, and J. Okay, so what do we need to do inside this loop? We need to fill the table with, to start with, the worksheet name, then the name of the chart, then the cell address that is below the top left corner of the chart. So for example, if I go to my widget sheet, I'm looking for cell D2. Okay, that's easy enough. And in the meantime, I need kind of a counter that counts all of the chart that I currently have. So I'm going to initiate a counter here, k equals 0. And I'm going to, as soon as I find a chart, I'm going to add 1 to k. Let me format that like that. Good. So all these steps I've prepared, so I'm going to just paste them in and discuss them while looking at the code. Okay, so the first step is listing the worksheet that the chart is on. So that's going to place that value, the number of sheets down, the number of charts downward, and I'm going to set that to the value of the name of the sheet. The next step is to report the name of the chart, and that's going to be in one cell to the right of the previous one, so in column C. And then the next step is to get the top left cell of the chart, and that needs some explanation, and I'm going to copy that function from my existing code. To explain, in Excel VBA, every object that floats on top of a sheet has a property called top left cell. Office JavaScript does not have such a property for a chart. So what we need to do is start in cell A1, step downwards in the sheet until we have a top value that is greater than the top of the chart. And that finds, let's say, this cell. And then we start from the left and start moving to the right until our right property of the cell is larger than the right property of the chart. And so then we have found a cell that is one row down and one column too far to the right. So we need to step back one and step up one, and that finds us our current cell. So that's what this function does, and I'm going to copy it. Let me copy that, Control C, and I'm going to paste that below my add TOC table function that's also in this worksheet. As you can see, it uses a do while construction. It takes the top left cell, starting from say cell A1, and then it's stepping to the right first until the left of the cell is smaller than the left of the chart. As long as the left of the cell is smaller than the left of the chart, and it does the same vertically, looking at the top property. So now my curly underlinement of these have gone, and so that gives me the address of the top left cell of the chart, and it's going to write that into the third column of my charts table. So there we have the code that fills our table. Last step that we need to take is to actually fill the table with the hyperlinks to those top left cells, and that is done using this little bit of code, which also takes into account if we didn't find any charts, then this k variable will be equal to 0. So we'll write the value that says no charts in workbook in that table. So let's test this script. As you can see, the script has nicely run without any errors. Let's see if the links work in the charts table. Let's click on the games link here. And looky here, it takes us to cell G8, which is right underneath the top left corner of the chart. And the widgets chart also takes us to D2, which is also right underneath the top left cell of the chart, which is great. Success. Okay. So now that our script is finished, I've named it Office Script Create TOC, and I've saved the script. So where are those scripts located? If you go to your Documents folder on OneDrive, there's a folder called Office Scripts. So here's my Office Script Create TOC script file. And since our next step is to use this script in a Power Automate flow, the script must be stored in your OneDrive because at the moment Power Automate cannot handle scripts that are saved in SharePoint. Our next step is to create the Power Automate flow. So let's go to Office Home, click on the 9 dots here and click Power Automate. And click on Create. So what I'm going to create is a flow that is manually started. We could also create a flow that is automatically launched, for example, at the start of the day or when certain events happen. We're going to create an instant cloud flow. And I'm going to manually trigger the flow and click Create. So I first want this flow to ask me a question whether I'm sure. So I'm going to click manually trigger a flow and click add input and select the yes no type. And here's the question I wanted to ask me. Are you sure? And please select yes or no. So this means that as long as I haven't selected yes, the script is not going to run. So let's add a new step. My next step is to get all of the files from a specific folder. So because I need files, I'll just search for files and it gives me list files in folder in OneDrive for Business, which is what I'm interested in right now. And I'm going to click the folder icon here to select the folder that I'm looking for, which is in my Excel Virtually Global 2022 folder, my TOC tester. I don't need any of this dynamic content at the moment. I'm just going to add a new step, which is the apply to each step in that folder. So I'm going to search for that. Y2, I want to apply something to each. And it should be here somewhere. Apply to each, there it is. But I do not want it to perform that action on any file. I only want it to do that action on Excel files. So I'm going to add an action, which happens to be in control. And the control that I need is a condition control. So what condition do I have? I'm going to pull the value of the previous step, which is in here, and I'm going to ask it to compare that whether it contains .xlsx. If this condition is true, I want it to perform the script, so I'm going to click in the yes box on add an action. So I'm going to, oh, I forgot something. I need to add the value here because we need to take that file and do something with it. What are we doing with it? We are testing whether the name is xlsx, contains xlsx, and then if yes, we're going to add an action, and that action equals run script. And which script are we running? Well, let's see where that script is located. It's located in my OneDrive for Business. And it's in my OneDrive. And it needs to run against this file, and that is the ID of the file that came from the previous step. And then here we can select the script that we want to run against it, which is my Office script create TOC script here. And that finalizes our flow. So we can now click Save to save the flow and worry about the name of that flow later on. So it says up here that the flow is ready to go, and we recommend you to test it. So let's go back to my flows. And as you can see, this is a newly added flow. I'm not really going to test this one. I'm going to test the one that I prepared yesterday, just to be sure that it properly works. But my first step is to actually open the files that are in that OneDrive folder and make sure they don't contain a table of content. So here's the SumCharts1 file, and I'm going to just delete the TOC. Okay. Going back to my TOC tester folder on OneDrive and open the SumCharts2 file and delete the table of content from that one as well. Delete. Okay. And now I'm back to the Power Automate flow, which is manage your flows. And I'm going to run this flow like this. And as you can see, it asks me whether I want to add a TOC to all Excel files in the folder, and this indicates the folder. So I'm going to turn this on and click Run Flow. And as you can see, it successfully started the flow and recommends me to go watch the flow runs page. As you can see, I've already run the flow a couple of times and it's currently running. So I'll refresh this page until it says succeeded. Right, there you go. It says that it successfully ran the flow. So let's double check whether that's the case. Let's just look at the SumCharts1 sheet and look here. There's a table of content, which didn't used to be here. And let's see if it works. It has a link to the games chart. And indeed that one works, and the SumCharts2 XLSX file also has a table of contents, and it has a flowers page which it links successfully to. So that's great. My flow runs and it works. So let me quickly summarize what we've been doing today. So I have this OneDrive folder containing 2 files, but it can be an endless number of files. And for each file, I want to create a table of contents. So I recorded a script using the Automate tab, Record Actions button, creating a table of all of the worksheets in the file and a table of all of the charts on all of the worksheets in the file, and each table containing links to the appropriate object. I demonstrated how to write the script and how to edit recorded scripts. I added a couple of specific functions which you cannot record just because we need them. And once that was done, we saved the script on OneDrive. Then we went to Power Automate and added a new flow. And that flow is a flow that runs on clicking a button. It is manually triggered. It asks me, are you sure? It then takes all of the files in a designated OneDrive folder, namely the TOC tester folder that I mentioned at the beginning of this recap, and then takes each value of the files in that folder, which is file information. It checks whether the name contains the string XLS, and then if that is the case, it will run that insert table of contents script. So that is the flow. If you trigger the flow, finally, the SumCharts2 file gains that table of content, and so did the SumCharts1 file. So that summarizes the actions that I demonstrated today and means that it's time for questions and answers. And also a big and bright thank you very much for attending Excel Virtually Global so far, and I hope you'll enjoy the presentations of my colleagues after this.